Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, hey, hey. How are you?
I have missed you so much, my friend.
Thank you, me too. I've been away for a while, but I came back with a movie. That's what matters.
You sure have. I mean, you kept telling me, Edgar kept telling me, we're working on a film. We're working on a film. Jonathan, now you know how much I loved Hands of Stone, and I still think they didn't do enough of a push for awards for you guys. But
Yeah.
even though you and I tried, this is masterful. I did not know this story about Marcel Marceau. I did not know this background. This is a fresh look at history. And the way you have laid this out, the story construct, the characters, and it's not so much about Marcel Marceau. He's our entry point into the film. But then you fill this with historical characters and situations that of which his hand had a play in, and it is so well done. I just don't know what to say. I'm in love with it.
Oh my God! Thank you so much. You know, the first time when I saw we were talking, the first thing I thought is, there's no way she's gonna like this more than Hands of Stone. Because I think you like Hands of Stone more than anyone I know, and I'm so flattered that it seems to be the case with this film.
Oh,
And it's so exciting to hear. Thank you so much. I'm so proud.
even though you didn't have Paula do your sound design here, I'll forgive you for that.
I know.
I'll forgive you because you bring back your cinematographer. I mean, you've got your A team here. You've got Tomas here. You've got Angelo. Everybody is back. And
Everybody is back. Yeah, Paula did help. You know, she was doing Game of Thrones. You know, I mean, it was very difficult to bring her. And but I worked with Stefan Busch, who's a German sound designer, and he did a terrific job too. And but Paula did gave us advice at some point. So in spirit, she was also part of it.
and I did Paula.
But it's true, everyone's there, you know, my same team, and that's what made it possible, honestly, because we, you know, as you saw the movie, it feels gigantic, but it wasn't as gigantic as it feels, and it was only thanks to a cohesive team who love what we do and know each other well and know what each other likes, that we were able to pull it off.
Well, it shows with the continuity amongst everything in this film. Number one, the opening. The opening, it just absolutely killed me. Before we get to any titles or anything, that opening, the family at night, bedtime stories, and how you could do this to Edgar, I don't understand. I don't know if I can forgive you for that, for the opening. But but you really and it's through the use of sound in particular in that opening, Jonathan, when we hear the commotion after this quiet, peaceful bedtime, the lights are out on Elsbeth, and then you hear this cacophony of terror. And that's what really, that grabs you. That just grabs you, sucks you in, and then we see what Elsbeth, this young girl, is seeing, what's happening to her parents. Bella, I have to say, is just amazing. The emotion on her face, the tears, so raw, so pure. And here's where your editing comes into play as you take us back and forth, but you hold on that face with the sounds and the screams intensifying and gunshots. And then you go to black and we get the titles. You're hooked. We're sucked in. And you have to watch. It is impossible to not watch this film with after that opening.
Well, thank you so much. Those are beautiful words. I mean, I definitely, the use of off-camera violence is a big part of the film. You know, and a lot of people watch the film and mention that it was incredibly violent, but there is not a drop of blood in the whole movie.
Right.
It's most of the violence is off camera, it's psychological, and I think it's part of what works best is when you let the mind imagine the horror, and I agree, Bella, in that scene. I mean, when I discovered the genius of this girl when she did that scene, because I knew she was a great actress, but when she started reacting in that scene, I was blown away. Everybody was looking at each other in the monitor like, oh my God, what did we just see? She's truly a genius actor. I've worked with some of the best actors in the world, as you know, and I have to say she is one of them. I feel like she's like a Kate Blanchett. She's going to be around in movies for decades, and I feel blessed that I was able to work with her, now that she's so young, because I really think she's going to be around forever.
I totally agree. I mean, because I was familiar with her. She played Lorna Luft in Judy, and she was fine. But it was not a standout role. They needed somebody to be Lorna Luft. And then she was Lyanna in Game of Thrones. But here, she really gets to put forth, and we see her go on this whole journey as a youth, who's a girl who's coming into womanhood, trying to find herself and taking on mothering roles, and still feeling an attachment to Marcel and to Emma. It's just, watching her is just amazing. You scored big with her, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank
you. No, in a way, what the rest of the cast too. I mean, it's a really what I really worked hard is to create an ensemble where every single actor shines. And some of those actors are not, movie stars like Jesse, but they are extremely recognized and veterans in their own countries. I mean, I don't know if you remember Karl Markovic was the star of The Counterfeiters.
Yep.
Which won the Oscar, and Gisa Rory was the star of Son of Soul, which also won the Oscar and won Cannes. I mean, these are truly some of the best actors in the world, and they are all part of an ensemble, and it's incredible how each of them gets their moment to really shine, and I think that's a big part of why the movie connects so emotionally with audiences. It's their ability to connect.
Well, absolutely chilling is Matthias's performance as Klaus Barbie. It is absolutely chilling, the way he smiles, that mask that's on him, and I find that a very interesting contrast with the mask of Marcel when he goes into mime and quiet, and it's a very striking counterplay that you have happening in the film with those two characters. And I just think it's just brilliant the way you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I always found fascinating that Marcel, who is the hero, never thinks of himself as a hero. And Barbie, who is the villain, is completely convinced that he is the hero.
Yeah.
And it's something, when you do research on Barbie, he never thought of himself as anything but the hero of his country and his people, all the way to the end of his life, and it's why you see him interact so gently with his family and his kid and his wife, and he has no regrets because he is convinced he's doing the right thing for his country. And I thought that was very important, because we tend to dehumanize the real evil people in history, and I think that's counterproductive, because what's really scary is that true evil is human, and that these were people with wives, with children, and I find that a lot more disturbing that the cliche caricature villain that is often used to portray that era. And Matthias is a phenomenal actor. I don't know if you know, but he's a movie star in Germany.
Yes. Yes.
But he's a movie star mostly doing comedies. He's a little like a Matthew McConaughey of Germany before Matthew started doing serious roles. And I found that fascinating for this role, because that is the essence of Barbie. Every testimony you read from even the people he tortured, talk about how he was always charming, he was always gentle, he played piano during tortures. I mean, there was an enjoyment of doing what he was doing that I found very specific to him, and something that differentiated him with other Nazis. And I thought it was perfect for Matthias because he's got that face that is initially, when you first look at it, hard to hate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why he's a heartthrob in all the movies that he does. And that's what ends up being so disturbing about the character when you realize what he's capable of with the same face.
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of him, and I think he's gonna be truly, people are gonna really pay attention because he's a really great actor and movie star looking guy, and I think he gave us something that's not easy to forget.
He really did. You know, how did you come upon this story, Marcel Marceau's story, and then all the history that you put into this? This is not a story. This is something that Marceau didn't really talk about, this chapter in his life. So it's not like you're sitting down at the breakfast table one day, I think I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to use Marcel Marceau. So I'm curious how you came up with this one, and then the research that you did to develop the accuracy of this script.
Well, I think I first heard the story that Marcel was involved in saving orphans during the war in the site Open Culture. I think you may have seen it on Twitter and online, and I immediately I opened my eyes. You know what? I mean, Marcel Marceau saved children in the war, and nobody knows about it. And I started, trying to investigate. And like you said, there's very little information. Even though he was recognized with the Medal of Honor,
Mm-hmm.
Wallenberg, and he was brought into the French Legion for doing it, but there was never a lot of information. But I was able to track down his first cousin, George Loinger, the character that Giza plays in the movie. And he was 106 when I met him in Paris, and I met him and his son and his niece and the whole family, and we spoke for hours, and they told me a lot of first-hand information because he was at the center of this thing. He was the head of the Scouts. And after that, I knew I couldn't stop. That I had to make this movie, and I stayed in France for a while. I met with the Klarsfelds, who were the Nazi hunters who captured Barbie. Mm-hmm. I went to the Museum of the Resistance in Lyon, and there's a ton of information there. And I, went to the Shoah Memorial in Paris, which also has very important information. And I read a ton of books. I don't know if you remember, but I'm also a journalist, so
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of a systematic approach to investigating history. And I spent a long time just doing the research and then created the script.
Wow.
It's one of those things that it's the movie. Sometimes I feel is better than me because so much of it worked organically, and so many great people worked in it that I truly just feel blessed that I was at the quarterback of an incredible team.
I'm curious, Jonathan, how did you decide on the visual palette with the lighting and the lensing that you came up with? I love the contrast. Visually, the film is rich, whether we're in dark scenes, which you've got a rich contrast and saturation, but then so much of the film is light, natural light against the darkness, or the use of candles, a lot of candle light when the children are being hidden, or when they're hiding, the resistance is hiding in the attic. But I'm curious how you came up with the visual design, because it is so striking and it belies the horror of the Nazi regime.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think from the beginning, Miguel, Tomas, our production designer, and my DP were together, and we wanted to avoid the typical, hard, realistic look that the war is usually portrayed with.
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, we were telling the story of a visual artist.
Yes.
And Marceau's favorite painter was Marc Chagall. And we studied Chagall and studied his color palette, and we decided to try to incorporate, that color palette to everything, the wardrobe, the locations, the lighting, and we also did something specific in this film that I've never tried before, but I am very happy with the result. There is a different lens for Klaus Barbie. We shot with spheric lenses the whole film, with spheric normal lenses, and we shot with anamorphic lenses all the Barbie scenes. So it's difficult to describe, but if you watch the experience that you have with a character with anamorphic lenses is simply different than the one you have with spheric lenses. And that immediately puts you in a different mind space in every scene that Barbie is present, and that is, it's a technical aspect of the photography that became, I feel, very effective in the film, and there is a thing that you feel that you don't know what it is, but immediately when Barbie arrives, things are going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's a different feeling the minute he comes on screen, the minute he comes into the train car, the minute you just see him walking, or as he's walking up the stairs with his wife and his infant daughter. There is something different the minute he gets on screen.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, and obviously everything helps a little bit, and even the language is different, but I feel, that that's part of the genius of Miguel, my DP, who had this idea from the very beginning, and one thing that you could ask anybody who works with me is that I trust my team. You say this is the way, let's go.
I know you do. And of course, I just saw what M.I. did with The Vast of Night as well. Totally different. I love his range as a cinematographer, but what he does here is just absolutely gorgeous.
No, I'm really proud, and I think it was accomplished that you never feel you're watching your typical hard World War II movie. You're watching something that has a little more lyricism, and I think that was essential because that's Marceau. At the end of the day, it's through his eyes that we are experiencing this event, and it was very important for us to make it poetic, and I do think, like you said, it helps being able to sustain the horror and the tension with the fact that what you're watching is simply beautiful.
And that's the overriding element with this film, Jonathan. It is beautiful to look at. Most people, when you're dealing, even go back to the 40s, the 50s, when war films were being made, and the evil Nazis, and they were in black and white, and even with the black and white, it was stark, and you felt the evil. Here, you see beauty. Again, similar to the Marcel's Mask of Mime, that there is something beautiful beyond the horror. You just have to look for it. And here you bring it right to the forefront, just so beautifully. Another element of that whole tapestry is Angelo's score. His string work with this score is gorgeous.
Yeah, no, it's my favorite score of Angelo by far. I think he reached a level of that it's so powerful. I mean, it's just so emotional, but also so dark, because we always, the only fear I had when approaching this film is to be manipulative, and because it's so often that you watch a war movie and they're like trying to push your buttons for you to cry in a manufactured way, and I feel that's always disrespectful to the very event, and I think it often has to do with music, because music, it's so easy to turn into sentimental, manipulative, and Angelo and I work really hard, and talked a lot about avoiding that and using the music to represent the fear of the Nazis more than the feelings that the characters are going, so that the feelings speak for themselves and the music is not conveying them in an artificial way. And I think one of the things that has me more excited about is that it's being perceived as non-manipulative. And I'm very grateful, because that was my biggest fear. I think the story should speak for itself, and the emotion should come at you because of the story and because of what the characters are experiencing, not because I was able to, create some manipulative set of things to bring out your tears, which is, in a story like this, in a way, it's very easy to do, but it's the worst route, I feel, that you can take.
Well, a lot of the string movement here in certain places, it's almost as if the strings are providing it their own tears.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything to evoke tears. There are moments the fear has brought it on through the music, and I just think it's so eloquently done. And I do think it's the most beautiful thing I've heard from Angelo.
Yeah, I tell him every day, when I watch the movie again, because I need to check some technical aspect to make sure the DCP is good or not, I'm blown away by the music every time.
I have to ask, and I'll be honest, I have never been that big a fan of Jesse Eisenberg. I respect what he does. He gives fine performances. You won me over with Jesse in this role. I am totally amazed by what he does. I was totally engrossed in the character. He must have rehearsed to be able to do some of the miming that he did, because it is priceless to watch. And then his facial expressions, the childlike joy that was connecting with the children. I have never liked him in a performance as much as I just really, really like him here.
That's amazing. I'll tell him that. When I chose Jesse was because of that. Because some people love to hate him because of how evil in his performances he can be, and he's very efficient in that. But I felt that this character is in a way the opposite of a lot of the roles he plays, because of how genuinely unselfish the character becomes. And Jesse's mother was a professional clown. He grew up watching his mother paint her face white to go to work. And he also lost relatives in the Holocaust. And this movie was very personal for him, too. And he did work with a mime for like 7 months. And the mime who was actually for 2 years studying with Marceau in the Marcel Marceau School of Mining in Paris. And he worked really hard, and he practiced, but at the end of the day, what was really magical was his connection with the children, because we decided very early on that regardless of how much ability he could get as a mime, what really matters is what is the effect he creates on the children. And he's a father. I'm a father. Our kids were on set playing with the kids in the movie. It became a big family, and when you see the real emotions that the kids are going through when he's doing his pantomimes, they are going through them, and so is Jesse, because Jesse is reacting to how much they're liking his show. And I think that's what you see that he won you over, because you don't see the character Jesse knows how to play so well. You see a Jesse who is genuinely moving by this story and by this children, and it was an incredible experience. And I really can't wait for people, not only his fans, but people like you who have always respected him, but have never completely bought his genius as a performer. really rediscover him and realize how far he can go and how much range he has, because I knew it from the beginning, but he went even further when we were doing it, and I think it's inevitable to completely fall in love with him, and he creates this emotional relationship with the character in the audience that I'm really excited to share, and what you said is exactly what I was dreaming would happen to those who feel like you did.
And you know I'm a tough sell. So
I know.
you know, were there any great challenges? I mean, I know you shot in the Czech Republic. Did you face any kind of logistic challenges with this film?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was a logistics challenge because it's I mean, we shot in 5 different cities, you know, because, I mean, we shot in the Czech Republic and in Germany. We shot in Prague and Liberec, which are 2 cities in the Czech Republic. In Prague, we shot a lot of the exteriors that recreate France. In Liberec, we had to shoot the train station interior because that was the only period-looking train station that we could use. And then we moved into Germany to shoot in a town called Krona, where we were given that castle where they hide at the beginning, pretty much for free by the city.
Nice.
And then we went to Nuremberg and to Munich. You know, in Nuremberg we shot other exteriors, and in Munich we shot the forest, you know, and the Alps and all that stuff. Munich is right next to the Alps, and we were able to recreate that in a couple of forests. And so it was very, very ambitious and a very difficult shoot, and it was like a traveling circus, you know, going from all these cities. James Bond usually shoots in 5 cities. You know?
Not Jonathan Jakubowicz. The forest scenes are so beautifully done. I was curious where you shot them, so I'm happy to know where you shot them, because I really liked the perspective, the POV that you were giving, and when the camera is up in the tree, I don't know if you were droning or techno-craning and shooting down to give us the perspective from the kids and Marcel up in the tree, but so well done. And then you bring in your VFX, obviously, your post work with the fog and layering in more snow and things, and it looks fabulous. And you're on the edge of your seat while you're watching this entire sequence.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really proud of that sequence. And by the way, the visual effects team is also the same from Hands of Stone. You know, I mean, it's the same family. We used a lot of different tools for that forest. I mean, it was a big challenge because when you have children on a tree, you talk about logistic complications. There's nothing that can make people more nervous than children on a tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you gotta make sure there's absolutely no way that they could fall. So they were all rigged by a very professional team of stunts, but it's also time consuming. You know,
Yeah.
just getting each of those kids to that branch and, you know, choosing the tree and respecting the tree, because it's like a 400-year-old tree. You can't touch it, you know. And also, I mean, on top of things, because we live in a world with global warming, there was no snow. So we had to use fake snow, you know, for a lot of the scenes. And we had to use this phenomenal company called Snow Business from the UK. And they did Narnia, you know, so they know how to do snow. But, I mean, this guy, the owner, fell in love with the story and basically came himself and helped us put snow everywhere. And it was very difficult, but also very exciting, because we were able to shoot with a level of scope that, you know, if you were shooting in real snow would have been impossible. Mm-hmm. You know, at the end of the day, kids running in snow at night also had challenges, but if the snow is something you can control, it suddenly becomes more possible. And I feel like that sequence when they're running is so intense and mm-hmm. at the same time so beautiful that I think in a way ended up working better than if we had the snow that you usually would get in Germany, by the end of November.
And the camera angle as they're running after they've been discovered, that camera angle where they're all running and dispersing at the camera, that was really nerve-wracking watching that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I think you're talking about a Steadicam that goes sideways, right?
Yeah.
Like next to them. Yeah, that's my favorite shot, I think, of the whole sequence. You and I clearly have the same taste.
Yes, we do. We do. Well, Jonathan, I got to ask you one last question before I let you go. I just want to know, what did you, with this film, because you really pushed yourself in with this ambitious project, what did you learn about yourself making Resistance that you will now take forward, be it in life or into your future films?
I mean, I think that off the top of my head, the biggest learning experience is you really can't complain. There is a tendency about most people, and certainly about me, of seeing the empty glass, and the industry is very good at making you feel that you don't have this or you don't have that. And when you spend time with Marcel and what they did to save these children, you really realize how blessed you are, how unimportant are your problems compared to what those characters went through not too long ago. And that regardless of what we are being told on a daily basis, for the most part, we live in a wonderful moment for humanity. And it's been very special to go through that in the last 3 years, especially because most of the people around me and around the world have been feeling the opposite. Mm-hmm. Everybody feels horrible because everything is horrible, and look at where we are, and look at this, and look at that. It's been very special to get some perspective and truly appreciate that our challenges are currently manageable. And yes, we need to be vigilant to make sure that none of this ever happens again. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we are blessed. We are still free. And I remember there was a funny moment when we were shooting that somebody, I don't even remember who, says in a dinner, "Can you believe Kim Kardashian has 100 million followers in Instagram?" And my immediate response was, I'd rather they follow Kim Kardashian than Hitler. And in a way, it sounds funny, but the fact that is the kind of things that we are horrified about nowadays, that people are vain or that they like to watch girls in bikinis, we're okay, I mean, it's a better moment, and yes, there's tremendous horrible things happening in the world, but when you spend some time with things that just happen, my grandparents were there, it's not like we're talking about the Roman Empire. We're talking about one generation, 2 generations ago, and it's something that I don't think will ever leave me, and it's something that I treasure every time I find myself, looking at the empty side of the glass, and I remember, Doc, you can't complain. You have to be inspired by those who really had trouble and overcame them. And you also have to see that a lot of these elements that appear in your life to be barriers between you and your dreams are the things that shape you and end up bringing you closer to your dreams. Mm-hmm. And that I think is the biggest learning experience for Marcel in the movie, and it's definitely been for me that that you're blessed by your challenges, and if you can remember that, you're definitely going to be better off.
Well, you met all the cinematic challenges with this film, Jonathan, It really is. It's a special film. It truly is a special film.
Well, thank you so much. And let's tell everyone about it.
Jonathan, a joy, as always. It's been too long. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Same here. Big hug.